Hi, for homework 6, we are going to do some work in AutoCAD and draw out our radiuses on a drawing file. So if you download the homework6.dwg file from Blackboard and save it to your H drive, you should see this when it finally comes up. There'll be a couple of screens saying that you're missing a shape file or missing some other files. Just click ignore on both of those alert screens that come up, and don't worry about those. You should get into here. You can see that if you use your center wheel to scroll back, it zooms you out. The center wheel zooming in, or scrolling up, zooms you in. And if you hold down that center wheel and then move it around your mouse, you can pan around your drawing file. So it's pretty easy to navigate. You'll see we've got a Main Street listed over here and Side Street here, so that lines up with what you've written in homework. To work off of that, I've added in the angles, so we've got 30 or 62 degrees there, 117 degrees here. Between these are the center lines of the two different roads. In your file, in the Indiana Design Manual chart that you're going to look up, just pick the degree that's closest to this. You don't have to interpolate anything, just pick the degree that's closest to that. So 62 degrees, closest thing to that's going to be 60, and so forth. So you'll use the table values for 60 degrees on that. So I want to give you a real quick idea of how to draw this in, and not the perfect way, but a quicker way for our homework. So if you look here, we've labeled that the edge of pavements are these dotted lines. This is the edge of asphalt, and this is a standard topo drawing that you'd get from a surveyor if you were doing this kind of work. And so we're just going to draw in the tangent, overdraw this with tangents, and we're going to match up the tangents on each edge of pavement on each side road. And then we're going to draw in new radiuses around the corners. And so we're going to redo these, so don't draw in any part in a circle. We're going to pick 2 points along this line, and we're going to set up what those tangents are through there. First thing is check what your snaps are. This is your snap box down here, your object snaps. You hit that little down arrow. And make sure perpendicular is turned on, tangent is turned on, nearest is turned on. That'll make life a lot easier. Sometimes it isn't by default. And so now we're ready to go. And so I'm going to go up here to draw. This is the menu section for draw. And click line. And I'm going to create a line. I'm going to come down here. Now it's going to snap to that existing line. And I'm just going to pick 2 points that look like they're pretty much in the tangent section. And I'm going to right click and cancel. And then that'll stop the command from going any further, and I just have that one line in there. You see, I didn't touch any part that's in the radius. We didn't want that. I'm going to do the same thing again now, create a line over here on this tangent. And then we'll match these two tangent sections on the edge of pavements together. Right click to cancel, and now I've got my 2 lines in there. If you look in the table that we're going to be looking at, it says there's an offset and a radius and a taper. And so the first thing is look at that offset. Let's say the offset in the table is 4 feet. And so I'm going to offset these lines back 4 feet. That's what that kind of means. You'll see here when we're done how it all works. So this is the offset command in AutoCAD. It looks like this. I'm going to click that. Down here at the bottom, it's going to ask you questions and tell you what it's doing. And if you look right just to the lower right of the crosshairs you've got down here, it asks you questions and it'll tell you what's going on. So it says specify offset or distance. And so let's say in my table from InDOT, my offset is 4 feet. I'm typing in 4, hit the space bar or enter. And now I've got offset. I'm going to offset these 2 lines 4 feet. And that's that offset distance in the taper. And I'm going to cancel that. So now I'm in. I've got those drawn in, and that's parallel to what the original line was. That's what offset command does. It drew those 2 in parallel. So I've got that drawn in there now. And I've got a taper rate. And so I'm going to connect the ends of these 2 parallel lines. And there's different ways to measure this. I often just use offset to measure things. And so I've got 4 feet, and if I got a 15:1 taper rate, if you look in your table and you see it's 15:1, I'd say I've got 60 foot. To go back 4 feet at 15:1 would take 60 feet. So it's just 15 times 4 through there. So I'm going to put in my distance now of 60. And I'm going to offset this line, and I'm going to zoom out so you can see it. I'm going to offset this direction. Right. So there it is. That's 60 feet back through there. And if I draw a straight line in between the edge of the shoulder, the edge of the pavement here, back to this point, right there. This diagonal line is now at a 15:1 taper rate based off of the edge of pavement, which is what that means in that chart. So that's a 15:1 taper rate coming in there. And that's good. And actually first, we're going to do the same thing over here. Actually, we're going to wait. So that just shows you how to draw in that taper rate. Now let's put the radius in. And so you've got a radius listed in the chart as well. And we're going to use the fillet command for that. So here's fillet up here. Hover over it, it'll say it larger and show you how to use it. And click that. Now it's asking me, it says it's in trim mode, which is good, because that cuts off any excess after we do the radius. And then type in the radius. So if my radius is 45, I'm good. Or you can click here and then type in what your radius is. So I'm picking 45 on that. And so if I were to radius now between these two offset points, whoops, that's not the right one. Let's do it again, fillet. I'm going to pick this line and this line. These are my two offsets. It automatically draws in the radius. And if we were doing a simple radius for the side of a road, we could have done it from out here, those lines. But we're going to add in these tapers now. And we've got that. And now we're actually, we're going to extend this guy. Hope it didn't want to go that way. We're going to lengthen this out here, modify. This is the lengthen command. And I'm going to do dynamic dy. Click this guy, just going to stretch him out. So I have some more room to work with. And now I'm going to draw a line straight off of where the end. So if I type in END while I'm in the middle of a command, it jumps to the end point of that arc. And that, here, and make sure you're doing perpendicular. So that's the end of the radius there. So that's a good thing. Now I'm going to lengthen this guy out over here. So it's LEN for lengthen, and then DY for dynamic if you want to use the command line once. There, now I've got that. Do there, and now I'm going to draw in another line based off the radius here. So END for endpoint. There it is. Come straight across and line it up. Make sure I see the little perpendicular symbol. There we go. So that's where the radius on this arc stop and end, and you can see where it's highlighting. That lines up pretty well with where those are. Okay, through there. And now what I really should have done is drawn this taper line starting from this point, because that's what we want to do. I can get it there though just by moving it. So here's move command. This is that point. Pick a base point. I'm going to pick that base point. I'm going to move it down here, and I'm going to put it right on top of this guy, right there. Yep. And now I can trim that off. Oops. It's going to hit escape. If you're stuck in a command, it doesn't seem to do anything, hit escape a bunch of times. I'm going to select this, hit delete. It's gone. And clear off these little construction lines I've got through that. And there we go. So there's my radius and my taper back over off of that radius. And on this side here, since I haven't drawn in my taper yet, I'm going to start at this point. I'm going to offset this to 60 feet I needed. Type in 60. Grab him. Click on that side. Now I've got my other line down here. Connect those lines together. This is the quicker way to do it. Starting here at the shoulder and coming back up here and snagging the end of that arc. There we go. And now trim off all the excess. Delete them. Just click the line and highlight it and then hit delete. There we go. And I got one more here. Trim off. Gotcha. All right. So there we go. Now we have a 15:1 taper and into a 45-foot radius, and then a 15:1 taper back out with a 4-foot offset off of that. So you'll just do the same process with that, whatever your radius and your taper rates and your offsets are on all the other legs of this intersection. So you'll do all 4 corners just like that. This isn't the perfect way to draw that. If you were working for a consulting firm, I would show you a more complicated way to make sure this is geometrically perfect. This is pretty close. This will look pretty close, and if you zoom out far enough, no one will ever know that we kind of cheated it. This line is not exactly tangent to that arc, and if we were drawing this for a consulting firm, I would do that and make sure it was tangent to it. It's only a slight difference in there, but it takes like 3 times longer to do it the right way. So for our purposes, for our homework, let's just do it this way. If you want to do it perfect, go knock yourself out, but this will be good enough. And then once you get this all done, just follow the instructions in the homework and you'll upload this then.